Tennessee lost, but is it out of the playoff picture? The answer is no. Here's a simple path for Tennessee to get back in the CFP.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Tuesday morning Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here and being a part of the show today. That's presented by our friends over at Game Time, where you can download the Game Time app, create an account, put in the redeem code Locked On College, and you can get $20 off your first purchase. I am your host, Eric Cain. Big show coming up here today, going over the playoff chances now for Tennessee, what that playoff path looks like, what needs to happen, all that and more coming up here in segment number 1 as we look at the ESPN playoff predictor and get some percentages on what needs to happen the rest of the way for the Volunteers. In segment number 2, who are the Kentucky Wildcats? It's kind of a different looking Kentucky team in terms of personnel. A lot of players left via the transfer portal. Not a very good football team so far, but what do they do well? What do they not do well? And what's kind of the path for Tennessee in a win at Kroger Field on Saturday? We'll get into that in segment number 2, and then we'll take your mailbag questions coming up in segment number 3. I'm your host, Eric Cain, member of the VolQuest.com team. Appreciate you guys for being here, making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single morning. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day, and could not do without you every day. Segment number 3 is your time to shine when I get into some of your mailbag questions. All right, so what is Tennessee's path to the college football playoff? It's pretty simple in terms of how you get there. You got to win out. Right now, that's the easiest path, right? You just win out. Like, you don't need this team to lose, this team to lose, this team to lose. Maybe down the line you can scoreboard watch a little bit, but if you win the remaining games that are left on your schedule here in the regular season, Tennessee will have a more than good shot to make the college football playoff. Now, that's easier said than done. Of course, we know that nothing's easy in this league. Look at Kentucky, took Texas to overtime. Texas is not that good in my opinion, but Kentucky did take Texas to overtime last week. Arkansas, which I think obviously with an offense like that, this comes as no surprise, but Arkansas took A&M to the brink, lost by 3 in a shootout. Teams pick and choose when they kind of want to play up or down to the level of competition. There's just a lot of parity in the league right now. So obviously winning out is not going to be the easiest of tasks, but certainly when you look at games like Oklahoma at Neyland Stadium coming up next weekend, when you look at going on the road to Florida, when you look at hosting Vanderbilt, a team that's very much improved in the regular season, those are not going to be easy games at all. But if you want to make the college football playoff, Tennessee's got a pretty good chance of doing just that, where according to the ESPN playoff predictor, Tennessee right now only has an 18% chance to make the 12-team college football playoff. If Tennessee finishes the regular season at 10-2, that percentage jumps up to 90%. So right now, 18%, that's the 18th best percentage following week 8 to make the 12-team college football playoff. The ESPN, how they do this, the ESPN playoff predictor uses the 3 toughest games left on the schedule based on percentages from ESPN's Football Power Index, the FPI, to determine a team's playoff chances at the end of the regular season. So what that FPI looks like for Tennessee in terms of the games left on the schedule, gives Tennessee a 65% chance to beat Oklahoma at home, a 61% chance to beat Florida at home, and a 60% chance to beat Vanderbilt at home. Right now, it currently gives Tennessee a less percent of a chance to beat Vanderbilt than it does Oklahoma, which is kind of shocking. If I would have told you that 2 years ago, or even in the offseason, that might not be believable. But again, I think Vanderbilt's a pretty good football team right now. So according to this metric, if Tennessee is to win out, not play for an SEC championship game, which it won't, the playoff predictor, again, will give Tennessee a 90% chance to make the playoffs, a 5% chance to get a first-round bye, a 58% chance to host in the first round, which is like those odds, and a 27% chance to go on the road in the first round. If Tennessee were to lose at Florida, it drops the playoff chances to 11%, while if you were to lose at Oklahoma, or Vanderbilt, it would drop to 8%. So, again, obviously you can't afford another loss on the schedule, but there is a decent, way that you can go about getting into the playoffs if you just kind of handle your business. And, Tennessee's going to be favored in every game left on the schedule, even on the road at Florida, in my opinion. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean anything, but Tennessee will be considered the better team on paper if Tennessee handles its business for the rest of the way. Like, there's no games where Tennessee should be entering as an underdog. So again, your season's kind of on life alert life support right now. I think I said life alert on yesterday's show, and somebody was giving me a hard time, which is valid because that's silly. Life support is what your season's on in terms of playoff chances. But Tennessee could easily go, and for the next 5 games, go on a little bit of a streak. Alabama just won 5 games in a row, 4 of which were over ranked SEC opponents. Can Tennessee do something similar? We will see. ESPN percentages are based off 200,000 possible simulations of the regular season outcomes. Tennessee right now, according to the Football Power Index, ranks number 13, and the Football Power Index still has Tennessee projected to go 9-3 with 8.6 wins and 3.5 losses. So 9-3 is what it projects. It gives Tennessee a 15.2% chance to win out, which is interesting because, again, it has Tennessee favored or a greater percent chance in the rest of the games left on the schedule, but it only gives Tennessee a 15.2% chance to win out. Again, that's why the game's not played on paper. You got to go out there and, between the lines and all that. So just kind of some interesting stuff. I thought it was I always like to pay attention to this because obviously in the playoff era, you need to know who you need to be losing this week. You need to know which teams need to be helping you. It's always good to kind of know that path. And just because Tennessee's lost 2 games earlier in the season doesn't mean that it's completely over. So just something to keep in mind. Look at the playoff predictor, some of the higher percentages given by the playoff predictor. Ohio State 96% to make the playoffs, Indiana 94%, Alabama now is at 90%. Texas A&M is at 84%, Georgia's at 82%, Oregon is at 76%, BYU is at 52%, Ole Miss is at 49%, South Florida is at 46%, Miami's at 44%, Oklahoma is at 43%, and Texas Tech is at 42%. Just ahead of Tennessee, Georgia Tech 41%, Texas 39%, or not just ahead, but ahead of Tennessee. Georgia Tech 41%, Texas 39%, Vanderbilt 34%, Missouri 32%, and Notre Dame 30%. So that's kind of what needs to happen. We'll see exactly if that's how the rest of the season unfolds. I think Tennessee's obviously good enough to win all these games. I do, but it's got to tighten some things up on defense, and you got to play complementary football. If your defense gives you the football, then you need to take advantage of it if you are the offense, right? All right, so it all starts with Kentucky. Again, this is super-duper coach talk right here, but you can't go 10-2 unless you go 6-2. So who are Kentucky? Who are the Kentucky Wildcats? What do they do well, if anything? We'll talk about it when we return right here on Locked On Vols. Let's be honest. Most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks and investments and savings, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It's helped me organize my accounts, track my spending, and get a better handle on my investments without having to touch a spreadsheet. I can't stand spreadsheets. I'm sure you guys are with me in that regard because not fun, and I'm not very good at it. So I really appreciate Monarch in that regard. I love that I can review everything with my partner, see our shared goals, and make sure better financial decisions are coming together in that respect. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for half off your first year. Big shout out to our friends over at Monarch. The NFL season, it is here. It is fast. It is furious. Sunday night was a whole lot of fun. Monday Night Football was a whole lot of fun. And there's no better place to get in on that action than over at FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if you get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because it gives me so many different ways to play, right? I built parlays, I've tried player props, even follow the live in-game lines while I'm watching my fantasy football team, right? There's something for everyone. Plus, you have futures. College basketball season is right around the corner, so get in on some of that action here today. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started. Shout out to our friends over at FanDuel. Hey guys, welcome back into your your Tuesday morning Locked On Balls. We'll have mailbag edition of the show coming up momentarily in segment number 3. So do appreciate you guys for being here. Wanted to get a quick look, a first glance, if you will, at the Kentucky Wildcats. Who are the Kentucky Wildcats? And I think it's important this week because obviously there's a lot going on. Coming off the loss on third Saturday in October, coming off the loss earlier in the season to Georgia where you lost in a shootout in overtime, you've got to run the table, in my opinion, if you want to be a college football playoff team. The ESPN FBI and the playoff predictor has Tennessee currently right now where it stands as an 18% chance of making the playoffs. However, if you run the table, and Tennessee, according to the FBI, is favored or has a higher percentage to win every game left on the schedule. If you run the table, finish the regular season at 10-2, you have a 90% chance to make the playoffs, according to the playoff predictor machine over at ESPN.com. So there's a lot to play for, obviously. The season is clearly not over. You just can't afford a slip-up. Your playoff starts now. You know, Mark Packer on Rivalry Thursday, he always says, playoffs officially start in 2 weeks, but they start here tonight in Dublin Valley or in, the Hamburger Hayes and Powell or, whatever it is. Like, it's true. Your playoff season starts now, okay? You can't afford to lose. And so you can't afford to overlook Kentucky to Oklahoma at Neyland Stadium next week because that's going to be a massive, massive football game. Can't afford to overlook Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky, I don't think is a very good team. I don't think Texas is a very good football team, but Kentucky took Texas to overtime at Kroger Field last week. So if that doesn't scream anything can happen in the Southeastern Conference this year, parity is through the roof any given Saturday, I don't know what does. That's just a great reminder and a great example to point to that, like, hey, anybody can beat anybody in this league. So who are the Kentucky Wildcats? Well, Kentucky's 2-4 on the season, 0-4 in SEC play. Mark Stoops in his 13th season. Feels like the chatter is getting a little bit loud. I understand he's got a contract that pretty much favors anybody. But it's a contract that's really, really good. But it feels like the chatter is starting to, get pretty. I don't want to say loud, but it's there in terms of could Kentucky make a move at some point in time? We'll see. Obviously, FanDuel gives Tennessee a slightly better than a touchdown percent chance in terms of that line, according to our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. So Tennessee's going to be a road favorite. Tennessee's got to win this one, of course, to stay in the college football playoff picture. Kentucky coming off the hard-fought 16-13 overtime loss at Texas at home. They're 2-4, 0-4 in conference play, falling in league bouts to Ole Miss, 30-23. South Carolina in Columbia, 35-13, to Georgia in Athens, 35-14, and to, of course, the Longhorns. Kentucky's 2 wins, both have come in non-conference play this year. A win over Toledo, 24-16, and a win over Eastern Michigan, 48-23. Those are the 2 wins on the season for Tennessee. Get a load of this, and I'm going to get back into this year's iteration because history doesn't mean anything in this matchup, just like history doesn't mean anything when going on the road to Tuscaloosa or going on the road to the Swamp. Just because you have a 1 there since 03, that doesn't hold any weight on this year's team and this year's matchup. And so the same for Tennessee and Kentucky, but I do want to revisit the history because these are some astounding numbers. Tennessee holds a dominating series lead, 85-26-9 in the series, dating back to October 21st, 1893. Hello. Tennessee has won the last 4 straight, 28-18 last year. UT's won 8 of the last 10, last 3 in Lexington. The last road loss in the series was in 2017. Tennessee, of course, won 26 straight from 1985 to 2010. Look at this year's offensive roster for Kentucky, and not very good, right? You'd expect 22.5 points per game. That ranks 14th in the league. 342 yards of total offense on average. That ranks 14th in the league. 186 yards through the air on average. That ranks 15th in the league. 155 yards on the ground. That ranks 10th in the league out of 16 teams. They're converting on 39% of the third downs, and they have turned the football over 9 times. So nothing that's really jumping off the screen, if you will, in terms of Kentucky's offense. Now, quick look at the stat sheet on Kentucky's defense. It's not great. They're okay at defending the run. But again, on paper, the stats in the major defensive categories, I'm not talking sacks, I'm not talking takeaways, I'm not talking anything like that, but like the total defense, scoring defense, pass defense, rush defense, Kentucky's defense isn't great, but it's still about slightly better, just slightly better than Tennessee, right? Wildcats allow 25.8 points per game. That ranks 14th in the league. 365 yards of total offense the other way. That ranks 14th in the league. They give up 229 through the air. That ranks 13th in the league. They give up 135 on the ground. That ranks 11th in the league. They've sacked opposing quarterbacks just 10 times. It's tied for 9th in the league, but there's a couple of tiebreakers among the 16 teams. That's the second fewest sacks in the league, number-wise. They forced 6 turnovers, all of which have been interceptions, and they're giving up 40% of third down opportunities while allowing 5.4 yards per play, this being the Kentucky Wildcats. We'll continue looking to excuse me. I got a little I couldn't pronounce my words there. We'll continue to look at Kentucky's defense as the week goes on, but just a quick look at the offense. Remember, they brought in Zach Calzada. Man, he's journeyman, right? Incarnate Word most recently, Auburn, and then of course starting his career at Texas A&M. Now he's at Kentucky. He hadn't played the last couple of weeks. I think he's been available. I'll do some research. He was the starter this year, but suffered a shoulder injury against Ole Miss. Missed a couple of games, but I think he's been available the last couple of weeks. But they've gone with the redshirt freshman Cutter Boley. 185 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's completing passes at 64%. He's got 123 yards gained on the ground, like 57 after sacks. He's got another touchdown. He's okay. Nothing to write home about, but he's been okay. A lot of transfers at the skill position. New Mexico State transfer Seth McGowan. He's been really good at tailback for Kentucky, actually. 476 on the ground, 7 touchdowns, averaging 5.1 yards per pop, 79.3 on average per game. He's been really good. You got Dante Dowdle for Nebraska, and I want to say he played somewhere else before Nebraska because I recognize that name. I need to go look that up. Anyway, he was from Nebraska, now at Kentucky. He's a nice second option, 274 yards on the ground this year, 4.1 yards per carry. Wide receivers, nothing to write home about, obviously, because the pass offense is, again, nothing to write home about. Alabama transfer Kendrick Law. He's easily the best wide receiver Kentucky has, but it's not a high-volume position. He has 22 receptions, 199 yards, 1 touchdown. You've got Henry Gilmore IV. He's second on the roster with 13 receptions, 155 yards. You have Jamori Macklin, who Tennessee knows very well. He's rolled in 11 receptions for 168 yards on the through the air this year. Kentucky always utilizes those tight ends, okay? Josh Caddis and Willie Rodriguez, 2 tight ends that play. They each have 12 receptions. Caddis has 163 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rodriguez has 173 yards receiving and a touchdown. 3 transfers, to my understanding, coming in on the offensive line. But again, this is an offensive line that averages 4 yards per carry. They've allowed 16 sacks, which is 5th most in the conference this year. So that's a quick look at Kentucky. We'll continue to break down the nitty-gritty and all that as the week goes along, but I wanted to get out there and kind of give you a quick little scout on the Kentucky Wildcats here on a Tuesday morning. We'll get to your mailbag questions. That is coming up next right here on Locked On Vols as we continue on here. It is your Tuesday morning. Locked On Vols. Stay tuned. College football is so back, and I couldn't be more exciting. The tailgates, the rivalries, and the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. Let's be real, though. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices that jump at checkout. That's why I use the Game Time app. The app gives you the advantage back to the fans, the easiest way to score last-minute tickets on the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. They got so many different things that you can write home about. You got the Game Time guarantee, where if you find a cheaper ticket in the same section on another app, they're going to credit you 110% of the worth. The most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Procrastination. That's what I do. Sometimes you can find tickets that are cheaper the closer you get to the event. So check it all out. There's so much to write home about over at Game Time, which was where you can buy your tickets here today. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, put in the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, guys, welcome back into your Tuesday morning Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for being here, making Locked On Vols a part of your morning routine, your first listen, your first watch each and every single day. Part, again, of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. That time of the show here on a Tuesday, when it's actually on a Tuesday this week. We've done it on a Wednesday the last couple weeks. Let's answer some mailbag questions from you guys. You can always send those in at _Cainer at Locked On Vols. You can comment on the YouTube show as well. We'll start with our guy Bruce. Bruce says, okay, I was unable to watch the game yesterday. I heard the goal line interception. What happened? I'm sure Bruce is caught up because I know he listens every single day when we talked about it on yesterday's show. Bad coaching, less talent. Why can't we get over the hump? Had this been a Saban team, I fear we would have been boat raced. The feeling of 10-2 is slipping, and the fear of 8-4 is becoming a reality if something doesn't improve. I mean, yeah, like that's that's okay to feel that way. I mean, it looked bad against Alabama. I think Alabama's a good football team, and it's frustrating because you just had so many self-inflicting wounds, self-inflicting mistakes. Georgia, you should have won that game 15 times, and you didn't. And again, like Alabama, credit Georgia. Georgia negated that. You should have won that football game 15 different times against Georgia. How different is this right now if you're sitting in your 6-1 and 3-1 in SEC play? I don't know. I think it could feel a little bit different. But certainly in terms of the college football playoff aspirations, like we talked about in segment number 1, you got to keep winning. You got to keep winning for sure. It just gets frustrating seeing the defense take one step forward, two step backs a lot of time. I mean, points and times the other night, they played pretty good defense. But, still didn't at other times, and of course didn't play complimentary football when the defense got a takeaway there. So that's a little bit unfortunate there. To the first part of your question, again, I know you know this by now. Bad ball placement. Should have threw it to the outside shoulder, threw it to the inside shoulder. Defensive back jumped the route and took it to the house. I don't like the fact that you are in that formation. I don't like the fact that that is the play you ran out of jumbo. It makes no sense to me. But end of the day, bad ball placement, and that is the reason why there was that 99-yard pick six. All right, we will go to Tyler. Tyler says, saving you for a moment from the Fire Banks questions. Can we get an update on Joey and his neck? It was clearly bugging him the entire game and could affect him moving forward the way it did in that game. Yeah, I mean, he got banged up a little bit on, I believe it was on the touchdown drive there in the second quarter. So he played the majority of the football game, with that beat up neck. It looked like he was clearly not 100%. But Josh Heupel addressed that in his Monday press conference. Said he essentially said, "Hey, he took a lot of hits. He's going to be ready to go for this weekend." So obviously, that is a really good sign. Tennessee would be in a world of hurt if it didn't have its starting quarterback, and certainly the way Joey's played for the majority of the year, that's some pretty good stuff. Let's go to James. Can you speak on the rumblings that there's friction between Tony V and Danny White? I've heard those rumblings even before Basilio posted what he did, but reading what he wrote is beyond troubling. If White isn't willing to invest in baseball at the same level as LSU, Arkansas, etc., it's a huge failure on White's part, and I hope if Vitello leaves, he puts White on blast. Okay, here, there's a lot of questions about, Danny White, Tony Vitello, and all that. I know that's kind of been getting some momentum the last couple of days, and I'm not going to act like I know everything. I'm not going to act like that I'm privy to a lot of these conversations. And quite frankly, there's a lot of things that I can't talk about. It just kind of is what it is. But here's where I am at on this whole thing. Every coach in America wants more. More. Give me more. Give me more. You know why I want more? Because I want to win. I want to be the best program I can possibly be. I want to be the best I can be. I'm looking for every competitive advantage I can have legally to go out there and arm myself up to be the best I can for battle. And Tony Vitello is doing that all the time. So is Jay Johnson at LSU, Dave Van Horn at Arkansas, Tim Corbin at Vanderbilt. So is Sullivan at Florida. So is, what's his name? I forgot his name. Gosh. Anyway, the Alabama coach that I like. Everybody's doing that. It's a constant battle on campuses right now, specifically this year with the roster size cutting down and the administrations at each program deciphering how many of those DSA tags you get. Essentially, what's your roster going to look like, the number? And so there are other rosters in the Southeastern Conference that have a bigger number than Tennessee this year. And from a coaching perspective, you don't like that, right? You don't like that. That's unfair, essentially. But to sit here and say that this is just my opinion, okay? To sit here and just say, whatever happens, again, at the time of this recording, Tony Vitello has not accepted the Giants job at the time of this recording. But to sit here and say, if that were to happen, that, it's all on Danny White this, Danny White that, you can't say he didn't invest in baseball. You have a $100 million renovation project going on at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. I've been there like 12 times in the last 2.5 weeks, and it's going to be gorgeous. You have a pretty high percentage of the pie compared to most SEC programs in terms of revenue share. There's only 2 that I know of, programs in the Southeastern Conference, that have a higher number. So, you're looking at and then get out of the SEC and good luck, right? Nobody's going to fund baseball like that. You're resourced well. Can it be better? Sure. It can always be better. But these types of battles are going on all across the country right now. That's not anything specific to the University of Tennessee. These battles, because coaches want every advantage they can get, and they want to be the best because they want to go out there and win and win and win and win. So anyway, this is just my opinion. Do I think that those 2 guys are like kumbaya BFF bros? Probably not. But do I think that they're mortal enemies? No, I don't think that either. So again, that's kind of where my stance is on that. We'll see how all this plays out. Again, if you would have asked me Saturday afternoon, how's this played out, I would have told you that I thought it was going to be done, and he was gone by the time I got back from Tuscaloosa. At the time of this recording on Monday night, it's clearly not been the case. So I think Tony's got a decision to make. I think that he's weighing pros and cons, and he knows that he has it good here, and he's in a really, really good spot to go win some games. So we'll see. Again, we'll see how it all shakes out. So let's go to Ashby. Twitter Tuesday. What do we do about our tackling? It's so bad. I know times are different. We don't tackle live in practice to avoid injuries and such, but dude, whatever they're doing in practice isn't working. Jeremy Bernard, hats off, great player. But 3 Vols met him 6 yards behind the line of scrimmage on a sweep, and it turned into a 10-plus yard gain and a first down. Pathetic, man. Dude had like 37 broken tackles on that play. Makes me so mad. I hate Alabama to my core, and I'm so sick over this. Yeah, dude, it's pretty bad to watch. And you're right. Most programs don't go live in practice in terms of 11-on-11 good on good. At least the whole time, maybe for a few short periods. And that's probably the right way to do it. But you do need to get some, at least in preseason camp specifically, man, you need to get some work in. You got to tackle. And I'm not saying Tennessee didn't tackle every day. There were some days where it was just thud up. But like the game has changed, and it's not, you guys listening, watching, you guys might have played football back in the day. I played football back in the day. It just, you put the shoulder pads on, put the helmet on, you go and hit every single day. And that's not how it is anymore, right? Because people are bigger, faster, stronger. They need rest, recovery, and all that and more. But Tennessee's not a very good tackling team. And it's hard to become a better tackling team in season. It's hard. You just got to, I hate to sound like a coach, you just got to focus on the finer details. Not having a drop step a linebacker, getting a good jab, head across. A lot of times I see guys make contact and their feet die. Where's your boost going to come from? Where's your energy going to come from, right? It's not going to come through your hip thrust. Like, you make contact, your feet die, then they're just going to run over you. So it's like little things like that. But I don't think you're just going to magically become a good tackling football team when you've not been very good at tackling all season long, and that's unfortunate. But I get the frustrations. That is for sure. All right, a couple more questions here I'll hit on. Again, there's the Danny White, Tony Vitello question. I've already hit on that. Will Jermod McCoy play at all this season? I don't know, man. I hope so. I think that he wants to. I think that he's working to. But again, like I've said, until he gets on the practice field full go, that's just not a reality. We'll pay attention. I sound like Josh Hopper. We'll pay attention to the injury report coming out this week. But and they at the time of this recording, they have not had a legit practice yet this week. So we'll see if he's on the practice field. That's kind of what we'll look to hear. Because we don't get to see it. We'll look to hear if he's on the practice field, because that's the next thing I'm watching for him. Appreciate that question, Raphael. Christopher, the combined record of teams Tennessee has beaten are 15-21. Thank God we won those games, and will likely only face 2 more teams with a winning record. Is Tennessee winning out? Is winning out enough to get Tennessee to the playoffs, or will they need some significant help? I talked about that in segment number 1. I mean, according to ESPN's playoff predictor machine, yeah, it's absolutely enough, 90%. Now, it would behoove, when you're scoreboard watching later in the season, to be rooting against some teams for sure. And each week some of those will be different, and we can talk about it. But a 10-2 program from the SEC with, at the time, Tennessee will have a ranked win over Oklahoma. Tennessee will have a ranked win over Vanderbilt, most likely, unless Vanderbilt just falls off. What does Florida look like at the time? I don't know. I don't know. What does Florida look like, by the end of the season? I don't know. But I do think if you handle business, you are potentially going to have 2 ranked wins, 1 probably for sure. And, based on everything else, I think that would be good enough to get you into the playoffs. All right, let's go to Randy. Eric Heibel's contract is incentive-based. Example of which $50,000 for winning the SEC Coach of the Year. Why not put negative incentives in a contract? For example, if you're bottom third of the league in penalties per game, you lose $50K. Something needs to change. I'm with you. Something needs to change, but nobody's going to sign a contract with that in it. Nobody's going to sign a contract. If I'm an agent, I'm getting fired if I let my client sign something like that. So maybe put incentives in there to say if you don't finish in the bottom third or whatever, something like that, then maybe you can get an incentive. I think there's a way to do that. You just kind of have to reverse the wording there. All right. Oh, Eric, my question is, do you think that being a Tennessee fan is some elaborate government experiment to see how much pain a person can take while still remaining loyal? Over the years, sure, but guys, I mean, and again, I know Tennessee's coming off a tough loss. Like, I'm not diminishing that, but I mean, things have been very good for Tennessee athletics under the Boyd, Plowman, White regime, right? Things have been pretty good, but that is funny because over the years, absolutely, I could have told you that. Though. There might be some truth to that. So, anyway, appreciate the questions as always, guys. Thank you so much for sending those in. Loads of fun here on Tuesdays every single week right here on Locked On Balls when we can answer some of those mailbag questions. We'll come back on tomorrow's show. We'll get the latest of Tony Vitello if there's anything. We'll continue to dive in and learn more about Kentucky. We'll do the quarterback look, Cutter Boley against Tennessee's Joey Aguilar. Kind of compare those and more, and we'll get you set for more football this weekend. Appreciate you guys for being here. Again, making Locked On Balls your first listen. If you're new to the show, appreciate you for being here. Come back tomorrow. We'll call you in every day. This is Locked On Balls.